Happy New Year! Welcome back to my channel. And oh, I'm so sorry I scared the kitten.
You scared her.
I'm so sorry, baby. We have a new baby in our home. This is Peppermint, and this is my mom. Anyway, so for this new year, I am planning some trips with some friends, and one request that has been made is that we do things that are not Disney, because apparently I am a Disney vacation person, and I realized in the midst of trying to plan for these vacations that I actually don't think I've ever planned a true vacation to any place that wasn't Disney, but I also think that I have very good reasons for that, and for that reason I would just want to talk about it because it's about accessibility. It doesn't, like, there's the pros, cons for Disney, whatever, but when it comes to accessibility for a family full of people with disabilities, our family has chosen Disney lots, so I just recruited my mom to help me with this video to talk about why we've chosen Disney, and why we come back, and why we don't do a lot of other places, because it, as much as we're going to be talking about the pros of Disney, we're also going to be talking about, like, the frustrations of trying to travel while disabled. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Issa, and I am a disabled writer and advocate. I am also part of the Disney College program. I don't speak for the brand or company, so if I'm talking about Disney in this video, it is entirely from a guest perspective. And my experience on vacations, which I haven't had one since starting my job, so take that as you will. I'm really tired. I'm getting coached on what to say in the video now. Mom, why don't you tell us about our first Disney trip?
Well, our first trip was actually your wish trip. You were 4, and your wish was to, from Make-A-Wish, was to go on a Disney cruise. Yeah, but you had to be 5.
I wanted so badly to go on a Disney, because you, on a Disney cruise, according to all of the the ads, you get to, like, walk around hand in hand with Mickey.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Okay, well, unfortunately, you had to be 5. And at the time, we didn't really know where your health was and whether or not you would be able to take a wish trip at 5. So at 4, you were at the point where we could do it. And so the wish people talked to you, and they said, what about Disney World? And you're like, okay.
I was just okay at 5.
Yeah, you were just okay, yeah, because you wanted the cruise.
I remember wanting the cruise. I don't remember a lot, but I remember wanting the cruise.
Yeah, and you really wanted the cruise. So we did Disney World. I had never been to Disney World. Your dad had been to Disney World, but my mom went with us, and she'd never been to Disney World. And so it was the first trip for everybody but your dad to go to Disney World. Mm-hmm. And so
we had me, and then Beck was 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I was pregnant with Jake. So, yeah.
Yep. So we were little babies.
Yeah. And we stayed at Give Kids the World, which is where we both do volunteer work now.
We're doing the volunteer thing tonight, the Halloween extravaganza. Yeah. I'll do a video on Give Kids the World sometime this year. I love that place. I did speeches on it for 2 years. I really love that place.
Yeah, so we stayed at Give Kids the World, and they gave you 3 days. There were 4 parks at Disney, but they gave you 3 days to go. And so we chose Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, and...
Animal Kingdom wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah, it was.
Was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom...
Oh, they opened in 1998.
You gonna let me finish?
Sorry. I don't know.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did open in 1998. Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, and Hollywood Studios were the 3 we chose. We did not do Epcot because we had to pick one to leave out. We left out Epcot. Although on the day we left, you know, the big golf ball thing, I wanted to see it, so we rode the Spaceship Earth, but at the time I didn't know that's what it was called, so we rode the monorails just so that I could say that I saw it, because you could see it from there. And so that was our very first trip. Fast forward, well, it was 2009, so I don't know what year that we went on the wish trip, but it was to 2009. I was already a single parent by that point, and my mom had inherited some money and said, hey, what do you want to do?
And we were going to go on a trip across the country, and we were planning on it and working on it really hard. And then Grandma, one day, I can remember this detail very specifically, we were sitting in the office, and we're stressing about trying to get all of the details together, and Grandma goes, why don't we just go to Disney World? And we laughed, I remember like all of us just laughing, and she's like, no, I'm serious.
Right, so we went to Disney World for the second time. This time was the first time not Wish, and Wish is very different than going as a regular person, because when you're a Wish child or Wish family, they treat you as like if you're royalty.
Yeah, as they should.
Yeah. So we didn't know what it would be like, and at this time, instead of just having the two kids and having your dad with me to help, because my mom is not, mobility able to really help with pushing and things, I had two of you were using scooters, and then Jay was in a pediatric stroller, so it was like a special medical stroller that I would push.
Yep.
And then Grandma was in a scooter, which that was interesting because we stayed at one of the cheaper resorts,
the All-Star movies,
and we had to get on the bus, but only 2 scooters are allowed on the bus at a time. So Grandma would get on with one of you, and then we'd have to wait for the next bus, and then I would take the extra one, and
the
extra one, and Jay, and then we would go and we would meet. So it took a little bit longer transportation wise, but that was before we were Disney Vacation Club people. But that kind of was the reason we became Disney Vacation Club, because with the disability, one thing that happened a lot was leaky feeding tubes or wetting the bed between all of you. And the first night, of course, multiple people had leaky feeding tubes, wet the bed, and I was too embarrassed to call housekeeping to come change the sheets out, and having to explain to them how my children's formula leaked all over the bed. And so I washed out the sheets in the sink, and we laid them out to dry. And it was awful trying to manage all of that. And so later on in the trip, when we did the Vacation Club tour, the very first thing they showed me was the washer and dryer, and I was like, yep, that's why didn't you just show me that? That sold me right there. So we were able to get in Vacation Club, which then meant we were kind of in. With Vacation Club, you can go other places too. We just never have gone other places with that. So
yeah, but part of the reason why we've chosen Disney over and over again, and it's not just like the disability pass, because when in 2009 the disability pass was essentially a fast pass, so you would just show your little red card and you're like, look, I can go through this line.
There were different ones though. There were some that were fast pass where you just go to the front of the line, and then there were others that were you just got a special entrance, because you had to go in, you had to specifically ask for the one kind over the other. And so that was a little bit of a challenge, because we needed the one that, because the one with the special entrance was not helpful to our family, in the fact that we still waited in a big huge long line, and we would just get to a point and they would take us. The reason you guys couldn't wait in line is because we've had experiences where we'd be waiting in line and a blood sugar would crash, and then it's not even just that we need to get out of the line, it's
you can't
you get stuck. And so trying to get a child that's blood sugar is rapidly dropping out of the line, or if there was a tube leakage or something would happen, trying to
go to the bathroom really like immediately,
right, especially with me being the only adult really trying to do this with 3 children, and I'd have to take all of them with me. It was very difficult for us to try to do the lines. I didn't like the one that would put us right to the front of the line.
Loved it.
I know you guys did, but it was embarrassing to me because I'd always look and worry that people were thinking badly of me, and I'd want to defend it and be like, you guys don't know what we've been through. You don't know how many hospital trips we've had. You don't know all this stuff. We're talking about all of these, times that we've been to Disney and all the things we've done, but I do want to point out it's not that we haven't traveled other places.
No, we've done a lot of other traveling. It's just when it comes to vacations, like that's the thing that I've been thinking about, is because we've been to the Philippines, we've been to Hungary, we've been to Canada.
We've been on road trips, like across the United States road trips.
But those have always been like for mission trips or for speech and debate tournaments, or for, Canada was for vacation, but we went on a Disney cruise for that one, so it doesn't quite count. But it's always had like the intention of doing something else. That the intention is not relaxation. The intention is not to just like have fun. And I think we've had fun on those trips, but when it comes to choosing something that's, the point is not to be stressed. Traveling other places, especially new places, is incredibly stressful when you don't know about the accessibility and you don't know about this stuff. Like when we went to, the last time we went to Canada, we flew into Seattle, and then we were going to take a train to Vancouver. And that, when we got off the plane, we took like a small train to someplace else. Anyway, we kind of got lost, and my blood sugar had dropped. And trying to find a place that we could eat, finding all of these things, finding something that, like, where's the wheelchair accessible entrance? Is there a place for me to plug in my chair because my chair was dying? All of these like little details that are having to be figured out. And these are the things that I'm trying to figure out right now, and be better about planning ahead, because I'm going to Washington, D.C. this spring. And last time I went to D.C., because that's in my video, my chair died. And if that was fine for like a little weekend trip, I was really, really tired afterwards, but it's not really sustainable over a long time. And I want to have like a lot of fun on this trip, but trying to like make sure I have all these details laid out. It's not as fun as planning like, oh, which ride are we going to go on? Instead, I'm planning like, okay, which places have food, which places have the accessible entrance, which places have this or that. Like, if my blood sugar is low, will I be able to eat? Because I get really picky when my sugar is low, and it's really hard for me to put food in my mouth that way. And it's just complicated. Makes it very complicated. Whereas Disney, there's a layer of labor that we don't have to do. And I think that's a big thing that people don't realize. Disney knows it. Disney absolutely knows that they capitalize on accessibility. That's why they do it. And it's something that other places can do. They just don't.
Well, and you have to point out the fact that it's not just Disney parks. And so we've been to, the cruises, of course. We've also been on we went to Vero Beach. We've done a couple other things outside of the Disney parks themselves, and it's still that idea, because as you're talking, I was thinking about when we were in Hungary, and there was an elevator to get up to the room where we were staying that worked half the time, didn't work the other half the time. And then you also had in Vancouver, where they had told me that no, there was just a couple steps to get up to the room.
It was a full flight of stairs.
It was a full flight of stairs, and we had to carry her chair up the stairs. And then the next morning there was a fire, which is a whole nother issue.
It wasn't in the hostel.
No,
it was at the Burger King.
That was attached to the hostel. So we had to get out, and we had to get out super fast. And so that was a challenge and difficult. And so for us, I think in a lot of ways, for me, as you guys were growing up and little, Disney took out the stress that I didn't have to plan for the disability. I could plan the vacation. I didn't have to think about all of the extra things. Not that Disney is perfect by any means. I mean, there have been issues. You talk a lot about in your channel about, being asked to get off the scooter. It's definitely not perfect. And we've done the other parks in Orlando, and we don't find them to be as accessible as.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. And so trying to find that balance. Now, with that said, though, that means that at Disney there are a lot of people that are disabled, and so then that adds to a little bit.
Oh, yeah. So when it comes to the people, Disney attracts a lot of people with disabilities. When you're there, you'll see, I think I've probably seen more people with disabilities in my life besides like camp, going to NDA camp growing up, at Disney, because Disney is the location for accessible vacations. And what happens there sometimes is that people start thinking of like, oh, not all of these people can be disabled. Not all of these people need the DAS pass. Not all of these people need this or that. And there are certainly people who abuse the system. But when you have something that is the only option, or it feels like the only option, compared to everything else, of course we're going to all come to the same place. And it's not even just like the mobility aspect. It's the fact that they are highly trained on how to deal with allergies, food allergies. We have friends with severe food allergies who love Disney because they can eat, because it takes away that stress of like trying to make sure that they find something that they can, not worry about ending up in the hospital at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, I was actually just watching a video, TikTok yesterday, about a server at Disney who somebody didn't she asked 3 times because it's a fireable offense if you don't ask about the, if someone has allergic reaction. And so she asked 3 times, do you have an allergy? And then she brought out a charcuterie board, and then the person's like, what is that? And she said, goat cheese. And the person on the video, or the person's like, oh, I'm allergic to goat cheese. And she panicked because it's such a big deal. Luckily, the daughter's like, Mom, you're not allergic, you just don't like it. But that's the same level.
Which is a lesson. If you really don't like something, tell someone, that's fine. They're okay with that. If you are, don't use the word allergic if you're not. If you have a sensitivity to it, use that. They know the difference and they're able to act accordingly. But allergies, they will clean everything to be able to make your meal, and they do it special. It also takes a little bit of extra time because of that. So if you want a quicker meal and you have an intolerance or just don't like something, don't say allergy.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about the time we were at the place on the boardwalk and we ordered French fries, and that's when we weren't doing gluten because we thought that would help. And they ordered the French fries in from some other restaurant because they didn't have a non-gluten kitchen, and there was a chance for exposure within the kitchen. Once we found out they were doing that, we explained to them that it wasn't an allergy, that it was
and we started changing the way that we talked about it.
Yeah, because before then we used the word allergy, and I'm sure a lot of people do, just because it's the easiest way.
Well, we didn't know better.
Right, we didn't know that the difference, because some people don't understand the difference between an intolerance and an allergy. And so, but I remember that specifically, that they called in another place to bring the French fries over to this restaurant we were at because there was a chance for exposure. I mean, they're that serious about it, which makes it a great place for families that have to deal with that issue.
And then the other thing that Disney does that I don't think other places do is that there's training specifically for how to talk to people with disabilities, what to do. And it seems so silly, and I guess this is a little bit from a cast member perspective, but I'm not speaking for the brand of the company here. I'm just talking from my experience, and this is kind of universally known, is that there's just this is basics 101 politeness when interacting with people with disabilities. And it's just as simple as using person first language. It's don't push someone's wheelchair without asking.
Don't assume that someone in a wheelchair is mentally
disabled. Or even then, just talk to someone as an adult if they're an adult.
Don't talk to a 17-year-old like a baby. I'm sorry, I saw that the other day and it really bothered me.
But it wasn't a cast member.
It wasn't a cast member. It was somewhere else.
Yeah. But the point is that just having that bare basic, just, hey, this is how we're going to treat people with disabilities, and this is where there's a whole team that is my dream to be a part of called the Disability Services Team, or the Guests with Disability Services, and they're incredible. They create education programs. They do a whole bunch. They do, if you are neurodivergent and you want to look at all of the sensory aspects of different rides and stuff, they have literally created a handbook talking about all of the components that go into the different rides: lights, sound, noises, smells, how bumpy something is, all of these details, so that you can go into something knowing what to expect and being able to avoid any potential sensory triggers, which is incredible. I didn't even know that was available, but that is. So make sure you look it up if that is something you're interested in.
And I was also thinking about the fact that Disney's more size inclusive as well, which I think kind of goes into disability, because you get a lot of people, they've done studies where they've shown that people with disabilities, at least mitochondrial disease, I don't know about others particularly, that you're either larger or you're small and super skinny, and there's no middle in between. And so having the ability to go to Disney where different people of different sizes fit in better, and there's a lot of YouTube videos you can watch about size inclusivity at Disney, is another perk, another plus. And the ability of the rides, one special story, I don't know if you remember this, but we met a family in line on one of our trips, and they were an amazing family, and their daughter had CP. We were visiting with them and talking.
Nonverbal.
Yeah, nonverbal. And we were talking with them, and your sister, my middle child, made friends with her. Her name was Natalia.
They did the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, together?
No. What it was we were in line for Toy Story, and they actually rode Toy Story
well,
together.
I thought that's how they met, though, was Bippity Boppity.
They'd never met at that, you know.
Oh, they met at Toy Story?
They met in line at Toy Story, yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so we went, and so Becca asked if she could ride, if Natalia could ride with her. And so Natalia went and rode in the wheelchair. They put the wheelchair in the ride, and she rode with Beck on the ride, which doesn't seem like anything significant until you talk to the mom after they left, and the mom's crying. She said it was the very first time her daughter had ever ridden a ride with a friend. And so having that ability for her daughter to enjoy the ride and to be able to ride with a friend was amazing and incredible, and it really was just one of those moments, because there's a lot of moments at Disney where I'm glad that we've become the stereotypical, I guess, Disney family.
I hope that we're not that stereotypical.
Okay, it's gotten to the point everything I wear is Disney, and it's not because I am that obsessed.
It's because you have three cast members. You have cast member discounts. So birthdays and Christmas and like, oh, I'm just presents for mom. Here you go.
Yeah, so
literally everything. Here, like, I got her this entire set besides the backpack for Christmas.
Yeah, and so like this is something you guys picked up.
Yeah, it's gotten really bad
since
we've all become cast members because we all contribute now.
Yeah, so
but she doesn't have a problem with it, so
no,
we're good.
It's fine. I go out and I'm like, people are
people literally will make comments.
Yeah, they're like,
you must really like Disney.
Disney.
I'm like, I enjoy Disney, but it's not what you think.
Yes. Keep in mind that we moved to Florida in a way for Disney, but not for Disney. So we moved to Florida because when we were going to move out of Texas, there was a moment at which we were thinking, okay, where do we want to move to? Because we were open, we could move anywhere we wanted, really, at that point. And
it was really where she wanted to move.
Yeah, it was where I wanted to move. But the reason is because after our house fire, when we had to reprint all our pictures, because when you have a house fire, you have to reprint all the pictures. Thankfully, we had them to print. We realized that about 95% of them were pictures of us in Florida, whether it was us at the beach and we're not even beach people.
No.
Or on cruises, or I counted Alaska as a Florida picture because it was a Disney cruise
thing.
So about 95% of our pictures were from Florida.
Disney trips, yeah.
And so we realized, well, if we moved to Florida, then we could get in-state discounts. Because at the time, I wanted to work for Disney, but I don't think the three of you working for Disney was even like
no, not really
a thought.
No, and it was, I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, and it moving closer, because part of it also is we hadn't been on a Disney trip recently. We went on a cruise, but our trips overall, especially to Florida, had decreased because the price was getting out of our budget.
Well, also at the time you were looking at going to PhD school in Florida.
Yeah, and I was also looking at PhD school in Florida, and anyway, so mom decided to move here. And this is the funny thing, is Beck, the middle child, who never really, she takes initiative, but not in this way, not in life-changing ways. But mom's like, yeah, I think I might move to Florida. Beck literally, who's working at Starbucks for like years before this, but worked at Starbucks, calls up Disney Springs Starbucks and is like, hey, do you guys have any jobs available? And they're like, yeah, how about 2 weeks? And Beck's like, cool, I'll start in 2 weeks. And we're like, I guess we're moving to Florida. And so, I still am amazed by that.
Dad, I can still see the moment in the car. And she's like, are you sure that's what you want to do, Mom? And I said, yeah, I really think it is. And she did it. And because, there were little logistics, like her Starbucks the Florida Starbucks had to talk to her Starbucks. And she did have to take a step down because she was a trainer in Texas. Mm-hmm. And then she had to step down because they didn't have any training positions or something. There was something
Yeah, it was something like that.
And she did have to take a step down because she was a trainer in Texas. Mm-hmm. And then she had to step down because they didn't have any training positions or something. There was something
Yeah, it was something like that. But, and then from there, Beck became housekeeping and started their journey in Disney. And then my youngest sibling followed along shortly after
because they wanted the college.
Because they wanted Aspire.
Yeah, Disney pays for college.
So it's just, there's a lot that goes into our decisions for Disney, and I think it just goes beyond like, oh my gosh, you love Disney and you're spoiled and you like the magic, and there's all of those things too. But
looking forward to fireworks tomorrow night.
Yeah. But it's also just kind of frustrating trying to plan the trips that I'm trying to plan, even the ones locally, like having to go through all of these extra steps to plan out accessibility and try to find these things. Flights are exhausting. You have to fly to Florida anyway, but like just all of these little logistics are things that Disney takes care of, and they're things that other places can. So if you are part of something that has tourism or whatever, and you're wondering why there aren't disabled people there, it's probably because it's not accessible. And making things accessible is one of the best ways to really grow your population, because especially after COVID, mass disabling event, we need accessibility. We need accessibility more than ever. And as long as one company has that, they're going to get all of the people who need those things there.
I wanted to talk about the fact that when you were younger and we would go to Disney, people would say things to me. I'm like, I just don't know. I wish I could go to Disney. I don't know how you can afford to go to Disney. And they would make comments that would make me feel bad, because
people still make comments.
But it's that idea that they would be very judgmental, because Disney is very expensive. So there were things that we did in our lives to make Disney possible. Like, we didn't buy new cars all the time.
We didn't do Christmas a lot.
We didn't. That was a lot. That was a big one. We didn't do Christmas gifts. We didn't do birthday gifts. We would take that money and use it, and we would try to do Disney once a year, once every other year. And then when we got Vacation Club, then the hotel was now paid for.
So then what we did a lot of times, we didn't go to the parks every time. A lot of times we just got really cheap Spirit airline tickets, like packed all of our clothes into a backpack type thing for a week or a weekend, and went and just stayed at a resort. And that's how we did. And we might do like one day at the parks. We had one time we weren't planning on going to the parks, and someone gifted us some tickets that they won.
But there are ways to do, like, you can go, the resorts are incredible. So just walking around the resorts, the pools, they have activities at the resort. Some you pay for, but most are free, that you can do. So even thinking of Animal Kingdom, they have night goggles where you go out and you put night goggles on and you can see the animals on the savannah at night, and that's completely free.
And the big thing is the transportation is accessible, and that's like it's a huge thing trying to plan out. I know I keep comparing the trips, but like trying to plan out my trip to DC versus here, like I don't have to think about that because it is free, it is accessible. There's only like a few things that I can't do, and if I can't do it, that's not on me to figure that out. That's on the cast to figure out on how to get me to where I want to go, because they just have to like, oh, wait here for an extra 20, 30 minutes, whatever.
Well, like in the Philippines, we couldn't use any mobility devices at all because the transportation that we had access to, none of it was disability accessible. And so we just had to make do, which meant when we were in the Philippines, we spent a lot of time just sitting at the place we were staying versus going out and touring, because there was even a comment made by people like, well, the last people who were here didn't, they went out and toured. We didn't have that option before us because there was no way.
And none of us were using mobility aids at that time. It's still, because we have to climb this giant staircase every day, but it's just there's these little things, and it is that extra element of labor. And when we're talking about true vacations and true relaxation, not having to think about that makes a big difference.
So the reason I wanted to put that cost part in there is just because I know there's a lot of families who say, oh, I never could do Disney or whatever. Understand there are ways to make it work. We drove, you said we found cheap flights, but we also drove to Disney a couple different times, which that provided that saved us money.
And that doesn't mean we think everyone should do Disney.
No,
like, it is not possible for everybody. It is incredibly difficult, especially lately. Like 100% recognize that. And we were very lucky because we were also homeschooled, so we would go in low season.
There's no way
we could have done it. Like because for a while we would do November because we were in a show that we got paid for. So we would use the money that we got paid for that show towards the Disney vacation for our spending money. And then we wouldn't do Christmas or birthdays and that save up that way. And then anytime we were like, we want to eat, we're like, money in the money in the stuff. So it's just, but that's not possible for everyone, especially today. And that's okay. Again, another reason why accessibility just needs to be a more common thing, because it's incredibly frustrating it's part of the disabled tax. If you follow Amani Barberin on TikTok, she talks about it. But it's that things just cost more for disabled people, and this is one of those costs.
Well, like even just thinking of an Uber, I mean, that's a huge one. And you're on vacation, everyone's like, well, you can just Uber everywhere. Well, for us,
you can't.
Any more questions for me?
I don't think so. But anyway, that's why we're a Disney family, and like I love Disney. I do. I think it's fun. I would like to enjoy it more, and that is one of my goals, is to really take advantage of my college program in the next few months as I'm finishing up, and enjoy the parks, especially since I haven't announced this. This is the first video I get to announce this. I got my guest relations extension. So I will be working in guest relations at Disney Springs. And one part of my job is to provide suggestions for guests, which means that I actually have to enjoy the things that Disney has to offer to be able to suggest them. So it's part of my job to go and have fun now.
So you've basically been training for this your whole life.
But part of that is the accessibility aspect, is that I really wanted guest relations to learn about all of the accessibility things that Disney has to offer. So fingers crossed that everything goes really smoothly in the transition process. I'm very excited, but I may make a video on that. I was going to make a video on like training week and do a video of like my reaction to my location, but I got the email, and in the email thing on my phone, it's like, welcome to the Disney Springs team. And I've been at Disney Springs for the last 7-8 months. I don't know how long I've been there. So I'm like, there's really not like going to the park stuff, but I might do something. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway.
And also you're good. You can tell people who say, I don't have tickets today. You've got all these different options of things that they can do.
Yeah, exactly. So I will be working on doing that. So if you are a Disney fan, what's your favorite thing to do at Disney? Because I need to enjoy the parks actively, especially since we're getting to the slow season. So,
are you going to ask me what my favorite thing is at Disney? Or do you know?
Go ahead.
I'm just asking. Are you going to ask me?
What's your favorite thing to do at Disney?
It's a tie.
It's a tie.
It's a tie.
It's a tie.
It's a tie. It's the number one would be
fireworks.
Fireworks at Magic Kingdom. Epcot's okay, but Magic Kingdom, and then Fantasmic is okay. But my favorite ride is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah,
because we got your grandma to go on it.
That's the only answer. That is the correct answer. Literally, I'll ask guests like, "What's your favorite thing?" And they'll be like, "Guardians of the Galaxy." I'm like, "You just aced this test. Like, that is the answer. That is the answer I am looking for. Guardians of the Galaxy is my favorite ride of all time, and the best thing I think Disney has to offer when it comes to attractions." But that's just my opinion. So, yeah.
And it may change. It may change to something different.
Maybe Tron.
Well, we're going to be at Disney a lot over the next 3 weeks because we have back-to-back birthdays for the next 3 weeks. And so because it's easier to go to dinner at Disney, that's where we're going to be doing. So we have reservations for the next once a week for the next 3 weeks to celebrate people's birthdays.
You know how many times growing up, because I know we're getting off topic, but my birthday is in July. My siblings got Disney trips for birthdays, partly because their birthdays are so close, so we just do one trip for both of them. But and they were in low season. I was never going to go to Disney for my birthday. It was too hot. Mom's like, we just can't do it, especially with like.
And it was also July, which was heavy season.
Heavy season, like between the two things, we're never going to do Disney. And so now I live at Disney, and I can go for my birthday, and it's extra cool. And I have done the exact same thing 2 years in a row as I go to Epcot.
Because we did the one year we did the cruise on my birthday. We left on my birthday on the Disney cruise, and that was 2020, which was one of the last cruises before everything shut down in the cruise industry. People say that they didn't get to go on their 2020 cruise. We actually did.
We were one of the few people
that can say
but
we
did.
But
we came back, and I remember like being on my phone looking at all the stuff going on in China, and I was like, this is not looking good.
And that was January.
Yeah. It was right before school started.
Yeah.
But anyway,
we'll have to do a separate video about the cruise, especially now that you have a sibling.
So, have a great day. I think this video has probably gone on way too long.
I'm glad you're going to delete most of it.
I'm not, actually. I think you're going to be surprised by the amount, because I'm lazy. I don't believe I delete a whole section, a whole video, but for the most part, I will keep things in so I don't have to edit it down. Just a little insight into my practice. But I hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, like always, please leave them down below. And we'll see you real soon. Bye.
Bye.